Guys, what's up? I know this has been a little bit late. It's been very busy. Today is the 22nd of December. I got home from MEPS on the 18th, so it's been 4 days, just about. And now I am going to tell you guys kind of how MEPS really was compared to my expectations. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect with MEPS, but now that happens, now it's happened, it's almost nothing like what I expected at all. And yeah, I've got some notes, so that's why I'm looking over here. Anyway, so basically, once you are done talking to your recruiter, you know that you are wanting to go in. They sign you up for MEPS, which is medical. Let's see here. Now I gotta remember what it is. Medical evaluation, something, services or something like that. Basically, what it is they check you out head to toe. They check for everything from warts on your hands to scars to anything that's under the skin, like a tumor. They do all of that. So that's what your recruiter will sign you up for. And for me, in the Cedar Rapids, okay, my sister pulled it up. It's the Military Entrance Processing Station. That's what it stands for. Thanks. I couldn't remember that. So anyway, that's the first step, and well, not really the first step, but it's one of the main steps into going and joining the service. For me, like I said, I went to MEPS on the 17th and 18th, which was a Monday and Tuesday. And the first thing I did that morning, and I got a time, see here, 11 o'clock, I went to the recruiting station and started filling out more paperwork. That's the first thing that I did when I went to go get my MEPS. So I live in and around the Cedar Rapids area. So the closest station is Cedar Rapids, but the closest MEPS station is Camp Dodge, Des Moines. So I had to go all the way to Des Moines for my MEPS. Anyway, so everything started out just like going into the recruiter's office. You go in there, you fill out some more paperwork. They confirm everything that you told them. The next thing is, as soon as you're done with that, it takes typically about 30 minutes. It took me about 30 minutes for all that to happen. Next thing that happened to me was I got in the car with the recruiter, and he took me down to Coralville. It's about an hour away from Cedar Rapids. And we met another shuttle there filled with a couple of recruits or kids wanting to become part of the military. And we took that shuttle from Coralville all the way to Des Moines. That took, it was about 3 o'clock when we arrived in Des Moines. First thing we did was we dropped off the kids that have already processed, they've already been through MEPS, and we dropped them off at the hotel. It was a Sheraton hotel, pretty nice, and they all got off, and it left the guys like me who hadn't gone to MEPS on the shuttle. The shuttle took off to Camp Dodge. It's a National Guard base or whatever. And that was kind of our beginning thing there. So by about 3:30, we made it to Camp Dodge, and we did some basic, regulations. See here. Yeah, we went over the regulations and rules that they had at the camp for potential recruits. And they took us in the back, and there's this big old computer lab. And it just, computers, pretty much like what you would see in a school. And we had to take our ASVABs. Now, the ASVAB is our, basically to see how well educated you are. Your math, reading, writing, that kind of stuff. It also has other tests like automotive mechanics, things like that, computer electronics, like assembly. They have puzzles and stuff that they want you to do. See if you can figure out what goes with what. There was also some intelligence tests, using code. Like if you are given a word, you're given a code, and you got to find that code and try to get it as fast as you can. See how fast you can actually process information, things like that, and that was required for the intelligence parts of the Navy. Um, we finished ASVABs about 6:30, and we got onto the shuttle back to the hotel. Once we got to the hotel, we were taken to the second floor, where I guess there is a group called the Freedom's Lounge or something like that, and basically they are either civilians or former military personnel that help with the MEPS process. A lot of hotels have them near the recruiting stations or the MEPS stations to kind of give potential recruits a place to stay, and the Freedom Club pays for everything, food, bedding, all of it. So while there, they had a small briefing, and they just basically same thing as the MEPS. They told you what you could and couldn't do. For us, our curfew was 10 o'clock. We couldn't stay out of our rooms any later than 10 o'clock. So, like I said, dinner and all that room, all of that's paid for by the military or by the Freedom's Lounge. And that's pretty much it. That was the stay at the hotel. There was not much there. You don't spend a lot of time there. You spend the night, and that's about it. I personally went to bed about 9:45. It's best the earlier you go to bed, the better, because you got a very early start in the morning. For us, we had to actually get up at 4:30, and the fourth, it's in my opinion, it is a good idea to go to bed early. My roommate, he didn't go to bed till a little bit later, and he kind of regretted it. That is actually another thing I forgot to mention. When you go to the hotel, you're not roomed. You're not given a room by yourself. You're actually given you have a roommate. If you're a guy, you have there's another guy. Girls, same thing. There's another girl. So you're all bunked, and the men and women are on two separate floors. So there's no mingling between the two at all. Anyway, back to the morning. So funny thing with me was that when I was asleep, I was dreaming that I had woken up late to getting up. I was dreaming that I woke up at 5 o'clock. Well, right when it hit 5 o'clock in my dream, the alarm goes off in real life. Wakes me up, and I'm looking around panicking because I'm thinking, oh crap, it's 5 o'clock. Look at my phone, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. My roommate had actually set the alarm an hour and a half too early, and pissed me off, not gonna lie. But he sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I don't know why it's set to that early, so I just kind of blew it off. Anyway, 4:30 rolls around, and we'd actually gotten up about 4 o'clock to get ready. Took a shower, deodorant, all that stuff. And it's a good idea to brush your teeth for quite a bit. And if you wake up and you need to go to the restroom, it's best to actually just hold it, and I'll get into that a little bit later. By 5 o'clock, we actually made it downstairs, and downstairs we had to be is where we went for lunch or not lunch, breakfast. And one of the biggest things about this is that you are not allowed to check out of that hotel without your roommate. And so you have to have your roommate ready to go with all this stuff and everything in order to actually check out of the hotel and get your breakfast. The roommate I had did not have all the stuff, so he had to go back up to the room. He left his room key or something like that up in the room, so he had to go back, and I had to wait before I could go get breakfast because of that. So my suggestion for that is to basically eat light. Make sure you're not going to be hungry throughout the day, but eat light enough to where you don't have a whole lot of weight to you. Like, you're not adding a bunch of weight. The reason I say that is that in MEPS you have to be weighed, and there is a weight requirement. You can't be above so high, and if you eat too much, you can potentially throw off the weight on the scale. So you don't want to eat too much, but at the same time you want to make sure you have at least a fruit and at least some protein. That's what I did. I had a banana, a couple orange slices, and a couple strips of bacon, just to have some kind of protein and some sugars in my body. That did me pretty well. So 5:40, we waited in line. There we had to form two lines, two double lines, and we had to wait for our name to be called. The Freedom Lounge would not allow us onto the shuttle unless our name was called, and you had to actually confirm that is your name. So once you get on there, you start heading off to MEPS. It takes about 20-30 minutes for us to get over to MEPS at Camp Dodge. The we arrived at Camp Dodge, and we went through a similar processing when we took ASVABs. We did some paperwork. We signed in all that stuff, and that got us ready for MEPS. Now, during this time, they give you a folder with all of the papers that you need for MEPS, and you cannot leave those papers alone. If they see that you left your folder by itself, they will get onto you, and they will call you out on it. And so you better keep those folders. We had a kid that had left his, and one of the guys was like, called him out, kind of embarrassed him a little bit, because they're like, it's serious stuff. This paperwork has like things like your social security, birth date, name, all of it. So if someone were to take a picture of that or tamper with it a little bit, it could definitely end badly. So you guys got to keep an eye on your folder. Don't let it out of your sight. I personally never even put it down unless told to. So by this time completely stops. You have no idea what time it is. For us, there were no windows, so we couldn't even see outside. Aside from a couple people coming in from some of the back doors and stuff, we didn't know what time it was. So it was pretty much, it's the biggest thing is you just don't know what time it is, and that makes MEPS a whole lot worse. The first thing we did for our medical is some preliminary test. They take your blood pressure. They look in your ears, make sure that your ears aren't blocked up, or your eardrums aren't ruptured or things like that. They also check some basic eyesight, eye motion stuff, and they have some two orientation classes that you have to go to. One is a kind of an orientation on how the rest of MEPS will go. It's kind of tells you, hey, this is what your rules are, more rules and regulations, things like, they go over things like sexual harassment, things like that, no, nothing too major. The second one is actually for MEPS, and it's basically all the paperwork you've done up to that point, and then some. You are literally copying down everything that you put on to your paper with the recruiter. And it's kind of a test to make sure that you are being completely truthful, to be sure that you aren't hiding anything, and that you just don't slip up. That's the whole reason for all this medical paperwork. It's a pretty thick folder of stuff that they make you go, and you go through your medical history. I think I counted maybe 3 or 4 times, and that was just at MEPS. You do it once with the recruiter, and several times later on after you do the MEPS portion. So after all that, we had an actual hearing test. They put you into a big booth, and with the headphones and button, and just a standard test. You basically you hear the beeps, you press the button. Next up, they had the one-on-one with the doctor, and this is the uncomfortable part of MEPS, I would say. And it's definitely the most embarrassing, because the doctor makes you strip down to bare skin. You have no pants on whatsoever, no underwear, no t-shirts, nothing. He does a full physical on you, just like a football team or Boy Scouts or Sea Cadets, any of that stuff. So things he did, groin, check the groin for hernias, uh, check your butt, things like that. It just stuff that you guys need to be aware of. This is what they do, and the best way for me to get through it was I'm like, you know what? Close my eyes, look up to the ceiling, or look up at the ceiling, close my eyes, and just get it over with. Just get it done. So that was the kind of what MEPS, that part of it is. It's nothing too major. It took maybe 10 minutes. And you're not undressed for the whole thing. It's just really the last couple things, like the groin, the hernia test, and that stuff. So the eye test was something completely different. They take you in there, and if you have glasses like I do, you do the eye test twice. You do it without your eyes corrected, and then with your eyes corrected. For me, that was no big deal. Even without these, I was still able to see pretty well. Just use these for driving. The biggest thing about this eye test is the depth perception. That causes a lot of people to fail. The easiest way to describe it is by... okay, take these two batteries, for example. Now, on a piece of paper, or like on the machine, they have a row, and say they had 5 batteries on each row. One of them, 4 of them are side by side, just like this, but one of them is a little bit closer, further out, and you had to pick which one was further out. Apparently, a lot of people failed that. Me, I actually got it completely 100% right. Thankfully. Here's a little tip for that. If you wiggle your head to the left or right, or up and down just a tad bit, it tends to make the one that stands out a little bit easier to see. So that's my tip for that. Let's see here. They also had blood test. Basically what they did, just standard blood test. If you've ever done that for a doctor in the past, it's pretty simple. They put a tourniquet on your arm, stick you in a vein, and withdraw some blood. No big deal. We had a couple people going into the Marines who cried like little babies for that part. And so I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of funny, but don't laugh at them because not nice. Let's just face it, it's just not nice. Drug test. Now this one is kind of a big deal. And if you've never taken drugs, like I've never taken drugs before, it's not a big deal to pass it, but remember when I said earlier that if you wake up in the morning and you need to go to the restroom, it's best to hold it. Well, this test is the reason why. I made the mistake of going to the restroom as soon as I got up, and I didn't have to pee at all. And that's what the drug test is. You got pee in a cup, and they test it on site to see if you've taken drugs in the past 30 days. If you can't go to the restroom right at that minute, they make you drink water from the water fountain, walk back and forth between the water fountain and the other wall, which is probably 30 feet. And you keep doing that until you can finally go to the restroom. For me, it took me almost an hour before I had to go doing that before I had to go to the restroom, and that really killed me because it's kind of like a punishment. Now they won't say it like that, but it's kind of like a punishment because the more water you drink, the more water weight you have, so which pushes your body weight up, so it can really be a negative when you take the physical portion of this exam. So my suggestion is if you gotta go to the restroom in the morning, try to hold it until MEPS because you're gonna need to do the drug test, and it's a pain. Next up, we did the physical tests, and all right. So anyway, the physical test is kind of a strange thing. For the girls, you guys go in after going with the doctor and a chaperone. Also for the girls on the doctor's portion. For at Camp Dodge, it was a male doctor, so there is a female chaperone in there with you. The guys can also ask for a chaperone if they don't feel comfortable. Let's just face it, nobody feels comfortable. So, but anyway, for the physical portion of the exam, you go in there with all the guys, and girls also go in with all the girls. It's completely separate, just like the hotel. And you strip down to your underwear, and they check for any imperfections on your skin, scars or warts, things like that. If you have any tumors in your legs or arms, they check those places. They check underneath your armpits, and they also do a scoliosis test to make sure your back is straight up and not curving into a S or anything. So they do that. The next thing they do is they make you do a bunch of different motion control exercises. Make sure your motor skills are good. You do things like this, and then you do like making sure you walk on your heels and you walk on your tippy toes. You do a fast walk to see if you make sure you still have balance. Make sure there's no balance issues. They do your height and weight during this as well. For me, I was 67.5 inches tall, and so my max weight was 181, and I was 181 exactly. I'd actually dropped 20 pounds. I was almost 200 pounds, a little over 200 pounds. And so I dropped 20 pounds just to find out that I was at the very max of what my weight should be. The biggest thing that they did was the duck walk. Now, it's going to be kind of hard to show you guys this. My room's a little bit messy still because of the move, but basically what you do is, and I'll have Sarah kind of move the camera around here. Let's move over here a little bit. So basically what you do is you're like this, and you gotta heel first, toe, and you gotta go heel, toe, while squat down, cross like this. It's a very, very awkward feeling. It doesn't feel good whatsoever, and it's basically to make sure that you don't have any balance issues. And I'm not gonna lie, I was very close to falling at least twice because it was just such an awkward, way of moving around. But assuming you get through all that, congratulations, you made it through MEPS. And now you're on to the next part of the deal. So this is the first time you actually see a clock. For me, they had no clocks on the walls, nothing. So we went in at about 6 o'clock. We came out about 2 o'clock. And at 2 o'clock, they break you for lunch. And we went there for, they got Subway sandwiches for us. So we eat lunch, and while some of us are eating, others are being sent back to whichever branch they are going into, and they talk to their branch liaison. For me, I'm going into the Navy, and so I spoke to the Navy liaison. And basically what they do is they confirm every single thing that you put down for your medical stuff. All that paperwork that you did in MEPS, they go over it once again to make sure you didn't forget anything or you need to change something. So once you're done going through all that, They kick you out, bring the next recruit in or the next applicant in, and they do the same thing with them. And by the time, for me, there was only 3 of us going for the Navy at this time, so it didn't take too long. But I went back the second time to talk to the liaison, and this is where they go over your ASVAB scores. Now, most of the time you'll know beforehand what your scores are. I knew the night after after I got back to the hotel, I got a call from a recruiter. He's like, "Hey, you made it 85," which is a pretty high score. It was one of the highest there. I was one of the highest scoring applicants there that trip around. There's a couple kids scored higher than me. So basically, ASVAB score, the higher you get, the more jobs you have. Once you hit about 80, you pretty much have a choice of any job in the military. So what they do is the liaison looks at your ASVAB scores, and she starts talking to you about your interests, things like that. For me, I wanted to be intelligence or in electronics or computers. That's what I wanted, because I enjoy computers, and I'm learning another language, so I'm pretty good with languages, it seems like. So that's what I wanted to be. That is something that they talk to you about. They go through all the different jobs. They give you a job card. Like, this is my job card here. This is what I picked for my job. Now, I didn't get into intelligence, but it's not off the table for me because they can't give an intelligence job out at MEPS. You have to go through several other tests before they even will consider giving you an intelligence job. So you have to talk to your recruiter about getting into intelligence. They schedule the test, and you go back to MEPS later on. In the meantime, since they still need you to sign up, they give you a job a couple jobs to kind of pick, like in case you're waiting, like something that if you pass the intelligence test that they want you to take, then you can change this job for a job in intelligence. So that's kind of how that works. After they lay out your options, they send you back out. You hang out in the lounge and things like that. And when I say lounge, it's not an actual lounge. It's more like just a bunch of chairs and a single TV that's playing like soap operas or something. Basically, for me, I had to wait and waited another hour or so before I talked to the liaison again. And at this point, I pretty much had picked advanced electronics computer field, which is basically, it's considered one of the highest, or not highest, but it's one of the most prestigious jobs in the Navy. It's right after nuclear fleet or nuclear engineering. So that was what I qualified for. I'm still going to be taking the tests I need for intelligence, but I might end up sticking with advanced electronics. When you pick your job, the liaison immediately points you to the front desk, and she says, "Go get your fingerprints done." And once again, while you're doing fingerprints, you are confirming everything you said on the papers about your medical. That is the most recurring theme of MEPS, is doing that. And so once you have everything confirmed, you get your fingerprints, you go back to the Navy liaison, and you sign a paper saying, "This is my job." For me, this is a 6-year job. 2 years schooling, 4 years active service. So that's where I'm at. Once you pick your job, you're in the home stretch. You go and you take the oath. There's an oath ceremony. They do it quick, fast, and in a hurry. So for me, the only other person in there was another, applicant. By this time, I guess you could say we were recruits. I believe he was a lieutenant, came in. He was Navy, and he gave us the oath. Real nice guy, and they actually, a lot of the military folks there are real nice. Um, some of that is kind of, I wonder how much of that's because they're trying to get you in there. But that's just, yeah, that's something for another time. Anyway, he goes in there, and you raise your hand. You say I, state your name, and he goes through all of this stuff, swearing you in to the military. And so once that ceremony is over with, it takes maybe 5-10 minutes at most. You are officially a U.S. Navy sailor or a Marine or a soldier or a pilot or whatever. Whatever your job is, you are officially considered part of the United States military. So once you finish MEPS and you take that oath, you are in the military. There's no going back. 7 o'clock rolls in, and that's when we head home. We get on the shuttle. I go back to Coralville, get picked up by my recruiter, and my recruiter takes me back to the recruiting office where I'm picked up. And that is pretty much how MEPS is. It's very long. It's very tedious. It is a very discomforting, process. You're not comfortable whatsoever, and you spend a lot of time waiting, and you will be bored out of your mind. So you might find yourself watching those soap operas they have on TV, because it's that boring. So that's going to do it, guys. That's how MEPS is. That's what to expect. For those of you who are going to join or are already in MEPS or in the process of joining, thank you for your service. You guys, it's a great thing to do, and I hope you guys will, enjoy your time in the military. And if you guys are watching this and you like the content, be sure to like and subscribe. I have more videos over military and its processes coming out. I'm not going to say when because I'm not exactly sure, but I will have more of those. If you're more interested in gaming, I've got those, and I've also got computer videos, so be able to go to my channel page, check it out. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time.